set this group up. Now we have ourselves BYU at the top. They're saying BYU is going to struggle a little bit because this is the first year they've been back in a conference in about a decade. They did leave the Mountain West a while ago because they felt like they were too big for that conference, and they wanted to play as an independent and pick their own schedule and see exactly how they could fare against their own schedule. And we could say BYU did pretty decent against that, you know what I mean? And BYU had some big upsets over USC in that span as well too. So, BYU was able to grow up a little bit and see that they are able to stick right there with the big boys, something that they knew they couldn't do 30 years ago. But now they're in the biggest conference they've ever been in, a power conference, and now they can say now finally that they're a power conference team. And I think BYU is going to be one of the tougher home games for everybody that plays them in the Big 12. So going over 4.5 games is very, very likely. So I do like the 4.5, and minus 190 pretty much tells me that they're a 5-win team or better. Maybe. They have to step it up, though. It's going to be tough in the Big 12, but they're a tough group. So we'll see how it goes. Baylor, over 7. I think Baylor is going to have themselves another really good season, but even better than they were last year. They're adding some good talent there. They got the same quarterback coming back from last season as well, too. So it's going to be a very, very telling season with Baylor. And I think if Baylor can get to the 8, 9, 10 mark, they should be a team that possibly plays in the conference championship as well too. So we'll see how it goes. Cincinnati coming in, going from an AAC power to what they feel is a bottom feeder of the Big 12. But I think that Cincinnati is going to be another team that's going to really surprise some folks here. And that's because they play relentless defense. And that's something that's kind of rare in the conference. So this year is going to be a little bit different because teams are going to have to step their game up. Cincinnati can beat you 19-7 easily. And they're probably the one team that can do that in this conference. So that looms danger to me. And I think that Cincinnati is much better than the 4.5 that they're giving them. So I'm going to take them with the over as well, too. Houston, on the other hand, though, Houston is in the middle of a rebuild. And that coach that they have there is good, but he was just in the Big 12 a few years back with the West Virginia, and he quit that job to take over Houston, where he thought he was going to be able to dominate and be in the conference that's kind of a power conference, still kind of a mid conference. But Houston decided to go take the big dollars and move on to the Big 12 and, reestablish some rivalries as well, too. So with that, Houston's under a little bit of pressure, but we know that Houston is building something for the future. They know it doesn't have to be right now. When they were in the AAC, they had the roster to dominate that conference. Now they have a roster that's considered middling in the Big 12, but they can overcome that as well too. And they have a good amount of experience playing Texas and Texas Tech all these years, TCU. So all that's going to be really fun when you see that Texas rivalry, all those Texas rivalries really, really play a big factor into this season. Also, let me not forget Baylor. Baylor is a part of that predicament as well too. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it shakes out. We move forward. Now we have Iowa State. They are set to not be that good of a team. And that's kind of surprising, you know what I mean? But it's understandable. Iowa usually has to take a while to put together really good teams, but they're always going to be a team that's going to give you issues when you come to aim. So that's one thing that you can factor in. So them being a 5-7 team, that is very doable in my opinion. So that's why I have them over 4.5 games. Now, Kansas, on the other hand, Kansas has a lot of high hopes going into this season, but it's Kansas. Come on, man. Let's keep it real. I think Kansas will be happy with a 6-6 season, to be honest with you. I don't think they get over that threshold of 6 this year. So that's why I'm taking the hook, because I feel like they can land right at 6 or below. So that's where I'm going with that one, minus 125. Kansas State is an intriguing team. I think Kansas State is a team that everybody has to take very seriously. They got a big chip on their shoulder. They won the Big 12 title game last year and were left out of the Final Four. the team that they beat was in the Final Four. So that kind of left a bad taste in their mouth moving forward. So I think that Kansas State would be a team that plays up to or over their absolute capability. So I truly do feel what happens here is that you have a team in the Wildcats that can run the table and go ahead and get themselves a good run this year and possibly steal that Big 12 title, because I know Oklahoma and Texas feel like, that they have rights to that since it's their last season here, but man, it goes to the best team. And I feel like Kansas State has a whole lot to prove this year, and they have the right type of attitude moving forward. You got Oklahoma under 9.5. I don't believe in anything Oklahoma's doing. I feel like Oklahoma really does need to bring in the de facto general of the team. I don't trust their coach that they have, because it seemed like he's the old adage of what they've been saying, a guy that started his career on third base, but that doesn't mean that you're a good coach. So pretty much he had the best roster in the conference and he still messed that up. And he wasn't able to keep those big time quarterback recruits either. Now he's dealing with the guy who's what, eighth year senior, and Dylan Gabriel. That's cool and all, but at the same time too, hopefully you have a good freshman in place that can fill in if something goes wrong with Dylan Gabriel, which most likely will happen because he's injury prone. So the under 9.5 is just me saying that Oklahoma's gonna take a bit to get back to Oklahoma status. Not meaning that they're gonna be a mediocre team. They're just not gonna be a team that's gonna be in the top 10 at the end of the year. So that's where I'm going with that one. And that's where we're at with that. So pretty much we move forward and we have the Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State, I like them. I think Oklahoma State is good enough to go over 6.5 this year. And that should be something that works very well for this team. I think all in all, they're another team that can possibly run the table here in the conference, because I know they got a big chip on their shoulder. They were one of the better teams in the conference most of the season last year. They just had some hiccups at the end. But I do like them coming into this season. And if they can duplicate anything what they did last season, they're in good shape. Let's just keep it real. They're going to be in good shape moving forward. So Oklahoma State, I like their chances. Over 6.5 is pretty good with the plus 100. Then you got TCU under 7.5 plus 105. I think that's going to be a strong play as well too, because TCU has a lot of their top tier players that are gone. They're not there anymore. So TCU's rebuilding, and last year they were supposed to be second to last. I think this year they fall into that category a little bit more consistently, because they don't have those super seniors this year and those super athletes this year, in my opinion. We move on to Texas. Texas looks like the best team in the conference. They got the best quarterback situation. They got a pretty good running back situation, and they got some pretty top flight wide receivers. It's just all depends on how good that offensive line is going to be this year. So I do like them with the over 9.5 minus 135. Odds makers seem like they're looking at them as a 10-2, 11-1 team, possibly undefeated at the end of the year. So we'll see how it goes. And then we have Texas Tech, the under 7.5. Plus 110. Texas Tech is always a 7-5, 6-6 team. I don't see them being better than that this year. So not much to say about that. Then we have UCF, brand new to the show. I think UCF can land right at 7. They'll possibly be a 6-6 team. We know that UCF is going to be a tough road game for everybody in the conference when they do go down to Orlando. So I'm going to take the under 7 with the minus 115. And then we finish up with the West Virginia Mountaineers. I have them going over 4.5 this year. I think they're going to be much better than they're predicting they're going to be. And I think that when you get down to the nitty gritty of it, once again, Morgantown is going to be a tough place to win at. And West Virginia is going to find a way to upset one of the top teams in the conference as well, too. They do it every year. So pretty much there it is. That's going to be our group for the Big 12. And I'm going to go ahead and move forward to the Big 10. Oh man, it's a long day today, boy. But let's go ahead and this is what we have here. We have the Longhorns winning the title. I have the Longhorns as my conference championship this year, and they are the favorite as well too. So Texas is sitting in the driver's seat to win this conference this year. So this should be